Today on Technado, we'll be talking with Matias from Okta, an identity provider, to find out how they provide security for such sensitive information. That's all coming up on Technado, starting right now. Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and joined, as always, by Don Bazette. Don, how you doing today?
I am doing great, ready to earn that Cable Ace Award in another great Technado interview.
Well, the way we're going to do that is by excluding you from this interview. We actually have an interview coming up that we did when you weren't here. We took over your office and managed to do it, but it's with a company called Okta, and this is a company that, it's a company that a lot of people have heard of, but how we kind of came across them was a unique story.
Yeah, you know, Okta is a big player in the managed identity industry, so they do a lot of federated services and just identity integration. If you need a directory service, they're one of the biggest players in that market. And I've often wondered, if you're a company like that and you have even a single breach, that can be catastrophic for your business. So how do you handle security when the stakes are that high? So I've always wanted to interview somebody there. I was at DEF CON last year, and one of the Okta security researchers was there presenting, and it turned out to be a guy that I went to high school with, Josh Pitts, and so I started up a conversation with him, and he lined up this interview for us, so it'll be a great chance to learn a little bit more about how a company who's just the stakes in security are so high, how they handle that, and what they're doing to keep their head above water.
Yeah, and Matias, the person we're talking to at Okta, has been there for a while. He started as a principal hacker back in 2013, and he's worked up to what's a really cool title as far as I'm concerned, the Director of Research and Exploitation, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I get paid to exploit things.
Yeah, I get paid to do it, and it's illegal, but he does it for an actual career. So let's find out what the heck that means and what that's all about, and find out how they do handle security for such sensitive information. That's coming up right after this on Technado.
I'm James Packer. I'm the General Manager of Kirk ISS based in the Cayman Islands. I used ITProTV extensively in my last place. It grew very well, helped upskill the team. I had 110 engineers in the field and we had dozens of IT Pro accounts with the guys training, and last year alone they passed over 40 certs by using the online training. I think I can safely say without ITProTV I wouldn't be where I was today, because I only got this job on the back of the qualifications I have.
Welcome back to Technado, and as promised, we have an interview for you now with a special guest coming to us all the way from across the country, and I'm going to butcher his name, and he's going to say it the right way, but Matias, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So how do we say your name right? Matias Brutti, but
Matias.
You have a much better way to say it.
Yeah, Matias Brutti.
See, we'll just go with Matt from here on out. So Matias, you're with Okta, so tell us a little bit about what Okta does.
Yeah, so we are an identity platform and company. Basically, what we do is, you have the old way of like an organization would work with. You have your all of your services within the company, and within that sort of like that corporate firewall, right? Like everything would happen and be served locally on premises. But as you all know, that's no longer the model, right? Like everything is on the cloud. Your employees are connecting to apps from 100 or thousands of different vendors that are all provided in the cloud, and we provide a way to secure and control the identity for those employees and those people. So think of it like it's a portal where you basically log in and you have all of your chiclets, and you can authenticate to all these things and enforce security.
So this is different than obviously something like a LastPass or LogMeIn, where you're storing all your passwords somewhere. This is you're actually logging in once and going into these systems directly. How does that work exactly?
Yeah, it's a little bit more. We also store passwords if the customer's desire. We have something called SWAs, which allows you to store your username and password for a specific application. But unlike other products, we're very agnostic. So we basically have all sort of technologies that we deal with, SAML being one, for example. So we allow users to be able to SAML into other applications. And in this case, there's no username and password. You have an identity, and we are an identity provider, and you will be able to connect to, let's say, a Slack or some other application, and you will be able to connect to that. And the key to that is we'd also provide orchestration. So, you could actually have a backend like a Workday that you will connect to. And, you know, when somebody gets hired, automatically gets added to Workday, automatically is added to Okta. And depending on how you set up your environment, you could automatically have some apps that will be populated and you will have in your first day. And we also could say, all right, you know, this type of employee, because he has access to the specific, you know, sensitive systems, I wanted to have MFA and I only wanted to be, you know, logging in from the specific IPs, etc. So it's not only identity, but also we provide a security on top of that.
And when I'm inevitably fired, you'll be able to just turn me off from there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Make it easier on them. Can't help but notice there's a large dinosaur behind you. That's the team that you work on specifically. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Yes. So I'm the director of research and exploitation, hence Rex. And the team was, I happened to be the first security guy, quote unquote, from Okta about 5 years ago. And we started doing a lot of pen tests and code reviews. And the team one of the teams in the security team was built, and we created research and exploitation, which basically means that we have AppSec, pen testing, research, and security automation. All those 4 different teams merge into a single organization that we report to the CSO, which is Chief Security Officer.
Okay. Now, just kind of back to Okta as a whole, but can customers connect to each other, or is it just limited to their own systems? How does that work?
It's interesting. We have, for example, inbound SAML and outbound SAML. So we could be the SP, or we could be the IDP, or we could be both, depending on how you want to be federated. So as far as setups, the answer is usually yes, right? Like you can build very complex setups. People could actually install agents where we allow on-premises customers to authenticate to Okta using IWA, you know, which is very old, you know, known standard for on-premise authentication, and they will connect to the Okta application through that. And then they might actually, once they reach the Okta portal, they might be SAML into other apps, or they might use username and password into other apps, taking advantage of the plugins. We even have agents that allow you to connect to LDAP or AD, etc. I mean, really, I think if there's one thing that is good for the customers, all these different types of integration, and at the same time, me being the security, you know, being the security guy, it makes our lives very interesting because we have to make sure that all those integrations are secure, and we get to play with a lot of things.
Yeah, I would think that security in your business, your line of business here, is extremely important, and you're probably targeted a lot because you are that authenticator for many different vendors, for many different applications. So, and you're part of the team that looks for vulnerabilities, tries to find them before the bad guys do. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's the best way to describe it. My team, basically what we do is we get to be the good hackers, right? We get to, before before somebody with wrong intentions finds a vulnerability, we get to find it, we report it, and we help and we work with the engineering team or the IT or operations team in order to, you know, explain them what's the vulnerabilities, how to properly mitigate it, or how to actually fix it, and go from there. But yeah, basically our job is hack ourselves 24/7.
Right, and obviously you don't do this against your production environment, so you have a complete mirror of your environment that you work with and hack on.
Yeah, it really depends what you're doing, right? Like we do all sort of things. Like when we do a code review, we actually get to look at the code that we build. When we do pen tests, we get to actually pen test against different environments. We actually pen test pretty much against almost every single environment. We even allow customers to actually pen test. We do actually have a very specific environment that we allow customers to set up whatever, you know, pen test scenario they want to and mimic their production environment, and they can actually go there and do their own pen test if they feel that, you know, what we do is not enough and they want to do their own due diligence. And we actually encourage customers to do that, because we do exactly the same thing for our own. When we actually buy a product, when we have vendors, we have a vendor review process that actually, whenever possible, and, you know, we actually do perform pen tests against those vendors as well.
That was going to be my next question: is how do you trust them? You're allowing them to connect to your network. So do you ever have to test their side of things before you allow them to make that connection? I guess the answer is yes then.
The answer is yes, and it really also depends how critical the information that we are going to be putting in there, right? We take security extremely seriously. As you said in one of your comments before, I like to say that we keep the keys to the kingdoms for our customers, right? So security for us, it's very, very important, and which makes my job very interesting because I get to do something that is critical. So it's very fun, and every single vulnerability for us is we take it extremely serious, and we try to follow it up, fix it as fast as we can, and even sometimes we go above and beyond. We're not only testing what we've built, but we have our research team also tries to find vulnerabilities in Apple products or in things we connect to. Recently, the two best examples is one of my guys found a way to bypass or actually sort of trick some applications into believing that an Apple binary was being signed by Apple when it was not. And you might think, hey, how is that related to identity? But we actually care about the security of the entire ecosystem, and we want to make our entire ecosystem even better. So if we have the time and the skill, we really encourage our own security engineers to take the time and do research in order to make all of the environment and all of the security environment even better.
So just hypothetically, if one customer were to be compromised somehow, does that open up any of the other data that you have for other customers, or how are those things segmented off on?
Oh no. I mean, we have a multi-tenant system, so each customer has their own sort of silo, and things are encrypted complete. I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail.
Yeah, exactly. How is that laid out?
Yeah, but rest assured that each customer has their own encryption keys and everything. So, and just because, I mean, this is something we test all the time, and we even have bug bounty programs as well. I didn't mention that, but we actually allow responsible hackers that participate in platforms like Backrow and HackerOne to actually report vulnerabilities to us, and we will pay them for those. And one of the things that we actually encourage people to try to search is cross-org privilege escalation, and because how we build our system, that's you never say impulsive in the security world, but it's highly improbable that could happen.
I know a lot of our viewers out here are going to be extremely jealous because you get paid to hack against your system. What kind of background do you have? How did you get into this field in the first place?
Oh, it's actually an interesting question. So a long time ago, in a different country. No, so I started professionally around 2004, 2005. It was pretty funny actually. My parents are professors, and they got a letter at university saying, this company, it's called Core Security. Used to be called Core Security back then. They were looking for people, and they were looking for people on their consulting team. And I got a letter. My mom was like, "Isn't this hacking thing something that you do?" I'm like, allegedly. And I thought, I was like, you know what? It seems very interesting. Like as we were speaking earlier, getting paid for something you love. I'm like, hell yeah, why not? So I actually moved to a city called Buenos Aires down in Argentina, where the company was, and I started my professional career in security. And I went from starting to review code back then, and thankfully I had very, 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 very good mentors in there. So I spent 5 years there doing consulting. Then I migrated to the US about 9 years ago, and also doing consulting. Then I also worked for Amazon for a while, and for the last 5 years, I've been doing security at Octave, where I went from a principal security engineer all the way to now a director. We're managing a bunch of teams and having fun, still hacking as much technically as I possibly can because it's what I love. But now I get to decide different aspects of security, and I help other people actually do research and build the things and find vulnerabilities that they actually are, they're good at.
So if you were going to give somebody guidance that wanted to maybe get into this field, what kind of areas would you say to focus in on? Is it more the programming side, looking at operating systems, a little of both? What's the best way to go?
I think it's a little bit of both. But security has changed a lot since we started. When I started doing security, there was a business, but it wasn't really defined. Nowadays, a multi-trillion or billion-dollar business where you have state-sponsored attackers, where you have, I mean, the rules of engagement have changed, right? And I always tell people back then it was a bunch of guys hacking around just for fun, and nowadays is, I mean, you could potentially hack multiple people's pacemakers, and you could kill them, or you could hack into a hospital and, I mean, potentially turn off a machine that's keeping somebody alive, or all of those. You know, I'm not trying to scare people, but the reality is that because we are so connected, the rules of engagement has changed it a lot, and also how much the field has grown. So it really depends what you want to do. I think if you want to be good at securing something, you have to be good at doing that something. So if you want to be, you say, good in securing the operating system, yeah, really understand how operating system works. If you only want to do Linux, concentrate on understanding how it works, and then once you understand how it works, try to think of ways that it shouldn't be working. And sort of, it's security is like testing, but testing edge cases every single time. You don't test a good thing, you only test the bad cases. And if you actually understand how something should work very well, you most surely actually are going to end up being very good at security. With that said, I think security is not for everybody. Some people tend to see the beauty in things, and others tend to have what we like to call the evil beat. It doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. It just means that when you see something, you sort of try to think the wrong way. And the example that I give people is like, if you go to a supermarket and you see the watermelons that are outside, and you ask yourself why nobody's stealing these watermelons, maybe you're going to be a good security person, right? Or you start looking for the cameras right there in the supermarket. I'm like, so I can technically take this watermelon and nobody's going to tell me something and nobody's going to realize. That might be a good example of like you actually have the right mindset.
Very good, very good. All right, now we've also talked about how security is just changes extremely fast. So how do you keep up with everything? You've got to spend. This isn't one of those fields where you learn your skill set and then you spend the rest of your career just working and going to work. You obviously have to continuously evolve that skill set. How do you keep up with that?
It's tedious. I won't lie. I mean, if you don't really love what you do, it might not be the right field. You have to. I wake up pretty early. I try to be with my family as much as I can, but I spend a lot of time, reading papers, trying to get into new fields that I find interesting. Lately, for example, personally, I always love sort of like the machine learning and AI field, and it's starting to become a lot more powerful and a lot more trendy. And there's a lot of new things being built. So I spend a lot of times reading just general paper that might not be security related, but just to understand how algorithms work, because it's not my field. So I'm a completely junior in that field. So it's just absorbing as much knowledge as I can. But at the same time, I'm subscribing to a lot of news feeds, reading general security feeds. You have to keep up. Every single vulnerability that is critical, try to understand it fully. If I don't understand something, I will ask my peers, hey, have you read about this? What's up with it? But at the end of the day, it's just like any other field. Like it's 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration, right?
Exactly.
So we're talking with Matias here from Okta, and I wanted to ask you, we've seen a big move in the last few years to multi-factor authentication. Is that something that makes things more difficult for you? Makes it easier? How does that affect a company like yours?
Well, I mean, it makes things for us good, right? Like at the end of the day, yeah, my job, if I'm a pen tester, MFA will make my life a little bit more difficult. Not impossible, but a little more difficult. And that's the whole point of a company like Octave. We provide MFA. We actually encourage people to use MFA because we believe it's a very good solution to up the game when it comes to security and really try to push it harder. And you see it pretty much every day in the news now. I tell people, like, even if your iPhone and iCloud and a company like Apple is telling you that you should set up MFA, or even Instagram, which is just social media in some respect, there's not like a critical infrastructure system. It might be critical for some people, but it's not a critical infrastructure system. That raises the question: is like, yeah, like MFA is a good thing, and pretty much anything that you deem sensitive, you should have it set it up. And is it a silver bullet? No, it's not. But it's really improves the security of whatever you're trying to protect.
Yeah, and I'm curious too. I know, Mike, you just went to the Microsoft Ignite conference a few weeks ago, and they're talking about Microsoft's going to get rid of passwords. And where do you see the industry going, Matias, in terms of how passwords are going to evolve? I know we've talked about YubiKeys and things like that on past episodes, and I just see it changing a lot from me typing in a password. But I'm sure you have some insight into that, being this is what you guys do every day.
Yeah, and here's my personal opinion, right? Not necessarily what we do, but I love where technology is taking us. For example, like I have an iPhone, but I think it applies to either iPhone or iOS or Android. But in my case, like I identify with my face, right? And it's even though my face, the only thing it's doing is actually decrypting a token, but rest aside that problem, it's not like actually identifying my face, right? I identify with my face, and then I actually pay with a credit card that generates like a random, credit card at the same time using Apple Pay or whatever other technology you might be using on a different platform. And those kind of technologies that we get, I think that moving forward is what we're gonna see also in authenticating. You mentioned YubiKeys. That's a perfect example. Like face recognition and identity. There is also passwordless, where, like you said, people tend to forget the passwords. You have to rotate your password pretty often, which means people will start using known or bad passwords that just barely, they barely go through the requirements of like maybe 8 or 12 characters, whatever, and like alphanumeric. And you go like mom with a couple of letters, right? Like 1, 2, 3 or something. I mean, something that is still, it passes the test, but it's not really good. And I think moving to a technology where we can prove identity using other means, it's getting there. We're finally moving, and the industry in itself is learning that, hey, maybe this is not the perfect solution. We can do better. And there's many competitors, there's many technologies. And I think the more technologies that we have, the more options that we have, it's going to be the better, because different corporations or different end users are going to find different solutions better for their own use case.
Yeah, I've always said I'm so afraid of the biometrics because I like my retinas and I like my fingertips and I don't want those stolen. I've seen enough movies where that stuff goes wrong. So if people want to find out more about Okta, where's the best place to do that?
Okta.com.
And that's OKTA, right?
OKTA.com.
And your department specifically and the team that you were mentioning, is there just a subsection on the site where we can look at that a little bit more?
Yeah. So Okta has a blog, and within that blog, we have a security subsection, and that's where we post most of our research or white papers and a few other things.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to enlighten us a little bit. And, it's cool to hear someone in the industry's opinions about, where this industry is going and how it's evolving and how you're doing the good work to help keep us all safe. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all of you for watching. We'll be right back with more Technado right after this.
My name is Dana Morrison. I'm the IT director at Grace Christian School in Raleigh, North Carolina. IT directors often hoard so much knowledge that it's hard for their team members to learn. ITProTV has given us the ability to level up our technicians to a point where they can decide, this is important for me to learn. I would recommend ITProTV to any IT team. It's just a great tool for any IT professional.
Welcome back to Technado. So, Don, did we answer all the questions that you were hoping that we would answer there?
It was a really good interview, and I have to question, like, why do I even show up for work now? You guys seem to have it in hand.
I question that every morning for myself. But that was interesting to hear how everything is siloed, so that if there was a breach, that it's not going to affect all of their customers, but affect just that one customer. So, obviously they're not going to give away the secret sauce here, but it's good to know that does exist. Yeah,
and Andy highlighted something that we always say, which is, a good IT pro is always learning. You have to constantly learn new things, and that's why, while they're an identity service company, they've got people that are specifically spending time trying to break things. And if they can figure out how to break it before somebody else does, and they can make sure they're protected ahead of time, it's really cool. They're doing that kind of research, and they do publish it. A lot of these things become CVEs that then other companies are able to benefit from too. So it's a neat service that they provide.
Don, it's like you gave me that segue there, that a good IT pro is always learning, because I have a special announcement to let you know about. We're always talking about our special promo codes for people watching Technado and the webinars and things we have coming up. But we've got something very special coming up very soon here in November. So if you're watching this right when it came out, this is something exciting for you. We're doing a free CompTIA weekend on ITProTV, and that means that all the CompTIA training content is available for free to free members. That's going to be the Thanksgiving weekend in the United States. So it starts at midnight on November 21st, goes all the way through November 25th. You've got Pen Test Plus, A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, CISA Plus, Project Plus, Server Plus, the works. So all you need to do is sign up for a free membership between now and then, or even during that time, and you'll be able to access all those courses. You can binge the whole weekend, don't have to spend any time with family, which is always great, and you can learn a lot, and then you'll be ready to take the test right afterwards. So definitely head over and sign up for that, so we can and get you access to that, and you can see all the great content we have. And I'm sure after that you'll want to sign up, and you can learn more about our coupon codes and things there, and we'll get you set up. So, any final thoughts, Don, before we end? Or I mean, are you? I know you've seen the CompTIA training, so you're probably more excited for the actual Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah. Well, it's Thanksgiving for us here in the U.S. as we celebrate this great country that we've stolen. And it's Thanksgiving for other countries. We're thankful that the Americans left to come over to this country. So, it depends on how you look at it. But it's a festive weekend for everyone. And what better way to spend it than to learn?
And shopping.
Yeah, Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Fighting for a TV. Yeah, Cyber Monday, much better than Black Friday these days. Stay at home in your pajamas and don't get a bloody nose.
It's no Prime Day, though.
It's the most disappointing day of the year, as far as I'm concerned. All right, thank you so much for joining us on Technado. Have a safe holiday if you are having one. If not, enjoy work. And we'll see you back here next week on Technado.
Are you enjoying Technado? Then be sure to check out our other podcast, Ask Me Anything, where our subject matter experts answer your questions. Here's the latest episode, and here's the full playlist. And as always, be sure to subscribe to ITProTV's channel. ITProTV!